assuming not, so go ahead and just.
All right, well, I'm gonna go ahead and jump in, and I am recording this, so we'll have a copy of this available for everybody that wants to watch this again, or for anybody that wasn't able to make it. And let me share my screen. Screen share, there we go. And I'm hoping you're seeing the presentation and not my email with 55,000 unopened emails. So can everybody see my screen?
Yes,
Okay, awesome. Great.
Yes.
Okay, so this is really all about social selling today. And the reason that we want to cover these things is our goal is just to really help you become more productive and sell more on platforms like LinkedIn, because what we're finding is that this is really an important channel today for all of us that are engaged in business. You know, I'm the CEO of Indie Digital. I'm also the chief strategist. I'm also the primary sales guy. And I can tell you that I spend time every single day on LinkedIn, and it is the #1 source of new business for our company. And I'll talk more about that a little bit later on, but it absolutely is critical for our success today. And I think as we look at the world in a post-COVID way, it's even become more successful. I don't know, somebody on my team, I'm still seeing people come in, and I don't know if I'm the only one that's seeing that, but people need to get admitted. Bailey or Juliana, are y'all able to see that, or am I just going to have to do that?
I think you're going to have to do it. I don't know that we have access, Paul.
Okay, great. I can multitask. But anyways, we're talking about how in this post-COVID world, you know, what happened is buyers really began to understand that there were places that they can go to get information. This digital transformation was already starting to happen, but really COVID kind of escalated that. And what buyers started to do is seek out other sources of information than necessarily just talking to their sales guy. And a place that they're going often to get that information are on social media sites like LinkedIn or Twitter or you name it. And why this is important for us as businesses and advisors is that we need to have a sign. Every business needs a sign. It's the way that we let people know that we exist. You know, if you're a donut store, like in this example here, and you didn't have a sign out saying I sell donuts, people would drive by your store every single day and they wouldn't stop in to buy donuts. But by being a sign out front, people are aware that you exist and aware of what you can provide them. And that's really what social media marketing can bring to the table. And I would submit to you that today, really it is the big differentiator. In my mind, it's what's going to help advisors succeed in the future, and that advisors that aren't going to kind of jump into the deep end of the social media waters are really going to struggle being successful in the future, because this is the way that we're going to tap into a very important type of customer that we refer to as the future buyer. So this is a customer that might be a restaurant or a bank or somebody that you could sell to, or even could be a current customer that may not be buying all of the different services or products that Safeguard can bring to the table, and just is not aware of those things. But by being active in social media on a fairly regular basis, we're going to walk you through how to do that today. You're going to create that awareness and help them remember, oh, this person can help me solve this problem, or this person can help me acquire these things. And really, that's going to be a big differentiator moving forward. And I think for those advisors that aren't taking advantage of social media moving forward are really going to leave money on the table, because there's going to be need out there that's going to get satisfied by somebody else if you're not seen as the person that can help them accomplish what it is that they're trying to accomplish. Now, before I get too far into it, I do want to talk about, you know, what social media isn't, because I think a lot of folks, and I've talked to several advisors over the years and lots of companies over the years about social selling. And the minute I bring up social media, you know, usually the next thing I hear is something like Kim Kardashian or somebody like that, that social media is where all those people hang out and where influencers are out there, you know, promoting their products or whatever. And that's not what social selling is about at all. It's not about taking selfies. It's not about taking pictures of your food. It's not about being a pushy used car salesman. In fact, the more you try to be a pushy used car salesman in social media, it's going to actually backfire on you. We actually want to be seen not as sales reps, but more like trusted advisors. And we're going to walk you through ways that you can accomplish that. So really, social selling in a nutshell isn't something that we should be afraid of. It's really taking skills that all of you that are sales reps or advisors on this call today innately have. You wouldn't be good sales reps or good salespeople if you weren't already good at communicating value, at listening and understanding the needs of folks. And so really social selling is all about taking what you're already good at and just simply applying it to this new communication technology. And I say new, it's been around for a long time now. But what's really new is how much buyers have really adopted leveraging social media as a way to stay informed and a way to get the information that they're looking for to make good informed purchase decisions. So really social selling is three things. It's networking, right? And we're kind of going back to what good salespeople do. Good salespeople are good networkers, right? They're meeting new people, they're communicating to those new people what it is that they do in ways that it's easy for them to remember. So it absolutely is about networking. It's also about prospecting. It's going and finding buyers, whether they're future buyers, somebody that meets our ideal kind of who we're trying to sell to, whether that's auto dealerships or banks or restaurants or whoever we're trying to go after, and letting them know that we exist and how we can help them. That's what prospecting is. And it's also about helping. You know, all good sales reps are really, at the end of the day, good helpers. You know, some of the best advice I ever received, and I'm an old sales guy. I started out as a salesperson back in 1990. And my very first VP of sales gave me two really important pieces of advice that I still hold true to this very day. And one that's very applicable to this, and as it relates to helping, is he said to me, and he actually said it to the whole group, it was kind of his keynote to the new hires. He basically said, hey, if you want to ensure that you'll never worry about making your quota again for the rest of your life, I think he said it this way: raise your hand. How many people want to never have to worry about their quota for the rest of their lives? And of course, everybody raised their hands. He said, do these two things. The first one, he said, is hone your craft. Remember that you're always going to have to be better next year, tomorrow, than you are today, next year than you were the year before. That was the first piece of advice. But the second piece, which is super relevant to this, is he said, be a problem solver. You're not a salesperson, you're a problem solver. Go find problems that need to be solved and help people solve those problems. And I promise you, you'll never have to worry about making your quota again. And I'm telling you, that's something that I, like I said, took very close to the vest. I've tried to live my life that way, and I found that it works incredibly well. And so if we want to be successful in social selling, we need to think about how can we help people solve their problems. That's really, really key. Now, when we think about just what it is that social media is doing for businesses today, I wanted to share with you some facts here that I think might open your mind a little bit. This first one is from TechTarget, where it basically said that 91% of B2B sales go to the vendor that was the first vendor to provide value. So as that buyer was out there thinking about how do I deal with this issue, or how do I accomplish this thing that I'm trying to accomplish, the vendor that was the first to aid them, to provide value, to help them in some way, was 91% of the time is the one that's going to get the business. And social media creates a great way for us to engage with those buyers early cycle and deliver value so that we have that best opportunity to win their business. Also, when you engage with people in the sales process and you leverage social media as one of your communication channels, remember I mentioned earlier that social media is really just another communication channel. When we start leveraging that way, our sales conversions actually go up 30% more. So, you know, taking your normal ways of communicating with prospects, that would obviously be face-to-face or email or phone call, and then adding communicating with them via social media, your conversion rates will go up 30%, according to Ziff Davis. And then finally, 84% of B2B buyers, this isn't B2C, I'm talking specifically B2B, are leveraging social media at some point during their decision-making process. And so it really is a critical channel for our success. And when you do it the right way, you're going to get some really cool things that happen. And I literally just added this slide this morning because this just happened yesterday, and I thought, or last week, and I thought this would be a very appropriate use case here. So, you know, I'm engaged in social media. I'm on social media every day posting stuff. And literally, I got this direct message last week on September 28th. It's this guy, Joe, who reached out to me, and he basically said via DM, hey, we're at a place where we need your help, and we want to talk to you about having Vendy Digital help us do our 2023 digital marketing plan and actually engage in that. And so I reached out to him immediately with my contact information or how to get on my calendar. And I had the call with them. The initial discovery call was yesterday. And the thing that is just so exciting, and this is what happens when you engage in social media the right way, there's no competition. I was on this call yesterday. This person, Joe, was on the call. The CEO of the company was on the call, a person I'd never met before. And it wasn't, hey, tell us, we're going to do an RFP and we're going to get your pricing and we're going to get 5 other agencies pricing. It was, when can we get started and what's it going to take to get started? We've been following you a long time and we believe that you can help us. And so this is what happens when you engage in social media the right way. In fact, just a couple of more examples. When you look at our business over the last 12 months, and when you think about our business at Vendy Digital, we're probably about the size of most advisors that are out there today. We have 11 full-time employees and about 10 or 15 freelancers that we work with. So we're not a large business. And I'm, like I said, primarily the chief sales guy. But 42% of our new clients last year, over the last 12 months, actually came directly from LinkedIn, just like that example I showed you before, where they reached out to me on LinkedIn and said, I want to talk to you. Or they went over to our website, filled out a form, but in the how did you hear about us field, they said LinkedIn or social media or something like that. Another really cool thing, so almost half of our new customers came from social media, but when we do get leads this way, we close them over 50% of the time. Now, if you were to peel back the onion on that, we close them at 50% of the time, and the majority of the ones that we don't close are just not good fits. And so it's not like we lose the business to another agency, although that does happen from time to time. Most of the time, it's that they can't afford us, or they're a B2C or something that's just not a right fit. And so a huge opportunity in just growing new customers and new business, but also just, amazing closing rates. And that's because, we're building relationships, we're building trust. And that's a huge part of what social media and social selling can bring to the table. Now, we've got a 3-step process I'm going to walk you through today to think about how do I engage in social selling the right way. And there's really 3 key ingredients, as you can see on this slide. The first one is we want to grow our connections. This is so important, right? Because we've got to be able to have, a steady stream of new connections and new followers, if you will, listening in on what we're saying in social media. And so there's some things we can do strategically to grow our connections. But we can't stop there. We need to move on to the next ingredient, which is to engage. So we need to engage our audience and engage in conversation with them, because social media is a communication platform, a communication tool. And then finally, there at the bottom, the last ingredient is share. So we want to share useful information and we want to share content if we're going to be successful in social selling. Now, our goals, when we think about, okay, I hear what you're saying, Paul. We gotta get out there. People are going to reach out to me when they're ready to buy something. I love that. But how do I know what I'm trying to achieve? And there's really 4 things that you want to do when you're building out your go-to-market social selling plan. One is you want to be found by people that are in market. And so that's really important. So if somebody's looking for a supplier of promotional products, or they're looking for marketing services, or they're looking for any of the things that Safeguard can bring to the table, you want to make sure that they can find you. Because remember, in this post-COVID world, people are actually using LinkedIn like a search engine. They're looking for vendors and resources on platforms like LinkedIn. Number 2, though, we want to find and connect with our prospects, right? So we don't want to just wait for them to come to us. We want to reach out and connect with them. And we also want to not just do that with prospects, and this is really important in the Safeguard world, is we want to connect with our customers, and we want to connect with all the people within the accounts that we service today, right? I know that a huge part of what Safeguard advisors are trying to do is take your current customer base that you're servicing and try to expand what you're selling into those bases. And so a huge part of what you should be doing is connecting with every employee that you engage with at the customers that you're servicing. And then number two at the bottom there is influencers. I'm going to talk more about influencers here in a minute, but you want to build connections with people that also have the ear of your customer, that aren't necessarily competitors, right? So these are people that your decision makers that you typically sell to, that they're also listening to for business advice. You want to connect with those folks too. And then goal number three, we want to establish authority and empathy. So the reason why that direct message example happened for me last week is that for Joe, I had become a trusted advisor. So I had created empathy, and I had also created authority. He believed that I could help him solve his problem, and that I also wanted to help him solve his problem. So that's a key goal. And then number four, we are selling in a real world. We're B2Bs here. We're not going to be putting things necessarily in a shopping cart and asking people to give us their credit card. What we are wanting to do is ultimately move those meetings into the real world, whatever that means in your world, and out of social media and into a real sales situation. So those are your goals. And these are important goals to think about, and why LinkedIn is really helpful here, because according to LinkedIn, this is what your buyers want. So I've talked to you a little bit about why this is good for you. Let's talk about what it is that your customers are really wanting from you from social media. And these are three really important things. Number one, so the question in the survey that was asked here by LinkedIn was, what do you want from a vendor before you reach out to them to ask them to bid on something? And they said three things. These were the top three. It was a top 10 list, but these were the very top three. Number one, I want to know that that vendor understands my business or understands my industry. Number two, I want to know that that vendor really is a subject matter expert, that they are qualified to solve my problem, basically. And then number three, that they provide helpful information. Well, the cool thing about social media and social selling is that we can accomplish all three of these things in the information that we share when we post and engage with our folks in social media. So that's really awesome, because those are all things that we can do. Now, some keys to success here are, I want you to quit thinking like a salesperson, because I know we all want the sale, but we can't walk up to somebody that we've met for the first time and ask them to get married. What we want to do is really be a helper more than a seller, right? So let's think about, how can we teach them? How can we educate them? How can we give them aha moments? How can we talk about, problems and solutions to those problems that they might have? How can we provide, when we share something in social media, we want to provide real business value. And what I mean by that is, if somebody were to read your post or to engage with you on LinkedIn, and that comes to an end, right? So they read your post, or you had a conversation with them as a direct message or something, you want them to walk away and feel like they received some business value, even if they didn't buy from you today. That's really, really important. Like, for example, I had somebody reach out to me last week that has been connected to me for a long time, and they DM'd me, and they didn't want me to come out and pitch them, but they had a question about what software I thought might be good for a particular situation they were in. And so I went out and did a Google search, and I found a couple of resources that I thought might be useful to them, and I sent them to them via direct message, and with no expectation that they're going to buy from me today. And I think that's a really key part of this, is just providing business value, being that consultant, that helper. And then the last one here is, we want to humanize. We want to be human in the way that we interact with people in social media. If you go and look at the things that I post as Paul Slack personally on LinkedIn versus the things that we post as Vindy Digital, you'll see they're slightly different. And I'm a human being, and people do business with people they know, like, and trust. And so I want to humanize. I want to be approachable and just humanize the information that I'm sharing. So those are really key things. And when we do those things well, really good things happen. Number one, our prospects are going to remember the problem that we solve. They're also going to value our point of view on how to solve those problems. And then number three, they will believe that ultimately that we are the best. Sorry, I'm letting somebody in here. That we are the best option for them. Just like in that example that I showed you with Joe. Ultimately he believed that we were the best option for him. It looks like I'm going to let some people in here. Hold on. I can multitask. Bailey, I know you don't think I can, but I'm proving it right now. I just let 2 more people in. Okay.
You're doing great, Paul.
Yeah. So, and you know, could we ask for anything more from our customers than this? For them to remember the problem we solved, to appreciate our point of view on how to solve that problem, and to think we're the preferred vendor. And that's really what we can do with social selling if we do it the right way. So one of the first things we need to do before we jump into the 3-step plan is really focus on optimizing our profile. And our profile needs to be, can somebody, whoever's got not muted, could you guys mute your phones, please? That would be great. Thank you. So one of the first things we need to do is optimize our profiles. And the goal here is not to make our profile look like a resume, like we're looking for our next job. The goal really is for our profile to look like the cornerstone of how we're going to help our businesses, and so, or help the prospect's business. And so one of the things that I coach folks on when they're thinking about how do you write your profile, the way I think you should think about it is, you know, imagine sitting across the table at Starbucks or something, and you're meeting a new prospect for the very first time, and you're trying to communicate what it is that you do and how you can help them. And that's really what your profile on LinkedIn needs to say about you. Now, you also want to write it in first person, because if you're sitting across the table at Starbucks, you wouldn't say, well, Paul Slack does this or Paul Slack does that. You would say, I do this or I do that, or here's how I help. And so we want to write our profile or our bio on LinkedIn in first person. And it's really important that we include key phrases. So we talk about the things that we can do in the way that people might search for them. I'll give you some examples of that here in just a moment. And that we're also always positioning it in terms of problems that we know our customers have and the ways that we can help them solve those problems. And so it's really key, because we know that in today's world, that our customers are looking us up on LinkedIn before we meet with them face to face or before we jump on a Zoom call. And so we've got to communicate well. I almost want to say it's our calling card, but really it is that place for us to position ourselves as somebody that's there to help them succeed. So a couple of things to think about. One is you want to have a custom background. For those that are in our program, we've developed custom backgrounds, or there are custom backgrounds available to you. You also want to have a great headshot. So here's Brian. I love his headshot because he's got a great smile. And one thing that you're noticing on Brian's headshot, and I don't know if Brian, if you're on the call here, but great looking headshot, is that you want your head and shoulders to be 70% of the picture. And so a big mistake we see all the time is, you know, you've got a picture of you and your dog, or you and your children, or your wife or spouse, or maybe it's you at an event or something. And if you're too small, then you're really not conveying what it is you want to convey. You want people to easily recognize you. And so make sure that that picture is a good 70% head and shoulders of the image space. Also, when you're thinking about describing your what's called the headline there, that you're answering the question, what you do and who you do it for. And you can see, for example, in my headline here, I've got executing B2B demand and lead generation campaigns to grow pipeline and generate revenue. And so that's what people see when they do a search in LinkedIn, or they, you know, when your profile is listed with several other profiles in some kind of a search result, they're going to see your headshot and they're going to see your headline. And so you want to make sure that in that headline, you're answering the question, what you do and who you do it for. This is just a template, and I think Nicole does a great job of it here. So you might try this if you're thinking about, well, what kind of headline would I create? Simply, and we will make these slides available for you. You know, I help whoever your customer is. Next is what they want or trying to achieve by what it is that you do. So that's kind of the template. And you can see Nicole basically does that exactly in hers here, where she says, I help chronically busy B2B marketers get strategic with their content. So she's got the who, chronically busy B2B marketers, and then she's got the what, get strategic with their content, and then she's got the result to drive demand. So that's just a great example of an awesome headline that is very customer focused. A few pro tips here, and I'm not going to go into all these for the sake of time today, but the one that I really wanted to highlight is this: add your contact info to your bio. So one interesting thing about LinkedIn is, unless we're connected, I can't see your contact information. And so once we are connected, I can see it. Well, I'm a sales guy like most of you on the call today. You're wanting people to call you. And so one way to get around that is by putting your contact information right in your bio. So if somebody goes to your bio, they don't have to be connected with you to actually see your email or your phone number. You can put that information right there in your bio, and that's great. And I get calls and emails from LinkedIn that way all the time. Another thing that we want to focus on is getting recommendations from our customers. Now, I know the last time I checked, these Safeguard advisors have over 1,000 customers or more that you're servicing. And so I'm guessing it would be pretty easy to get a lot of your customers to write recommendations for you. And that's going to help you a lot on LinkedIn. Now, one little trick about getting recommendations is, like you can see this really awesome recommendation from Jay in this example, where he talks about how great we are. The secret is I actually wrote that recommendation for him. So I asked him if he would be willing to recommend us. And then I literally wrote what I wanted him to say. And I sent it to him and I said, hey, Jay, if you don't mind, I know how busy you are. I've taken the time to write a recommendation for you. Feel free to use this word for word, not use it at all, or modify it however you want. And I do that for all of my customers that I ask recommendations of. And guess what? 99.9% of the time, they were literally going to just copy and paste whatever I wrote and put it in there for me. So not only do we want to ask for recommendations, but we want to kind of coach them on the types of recommendations and the things we want them to say. So I am going to come up for air now. And what we've kind of talked about so far is why social selling is important. We've kind of introduced the 3-step plan. I'm going to go into detail about that in the next section. And then we talked about how to optimize your profile. Does anybody have any questions as it relates to that part, social selling in general or optimizing your profile? If so, feel free to unmute your mic and go ahead and ask. If not, we'll just move on. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and move on. All right, so we talked about this 3-step plan, and the first step of the process is to grow connections. And so how do you do that? That's really what we're going to focus on here. And the key is that anybody that we meet in the world of social, in the real world, or people that we ultimately want to connect to on LinkedIn, even if they're not going to necessarily be prospects for us. And the reason for that is the way that LinkedIn works is it gives you visibility to your first connections, and it gives you visibility to connections of your first connections. And it makes it really easy to grow your community that way. So the more that you've got first connections, the more of the LinkedIn universe you'll be able to see. So really, you want to connect with everybody that you meet in the real world. LinkedIn makes it super easy for you to download your contact list, for example, out of your email and upload that into LinkedIn. And then anybody that it sends a match to, you can actually send connection requests to. Another thing that's important, and I'm going to give you some examples of this here in a minute, but you can actually search for people. LinkedIn is a search engine, so I'm going to show you how to search for prospects and to send connection requests to them. We talked about number 4 a little bit already, but I'm going to really try to drive it home. If you're an advisor on the call today and you've got 1,000 or so customers that you're managing or supporting, it would be really important to have multiple contacts within each of those accounts. And that's going to help you keep them top of mind of all the different things that you can do to help them. But also on prospect accounts that you're currently not selling to, that you're hoping to connect to or to crack open, if you will, you want to have multiple connections within those accounts as well. So we call it 5 deep relationships. And really this is dependent on the size of businesses that you're going after. But it's important that you don't have just one connection at one prospect account, but you have multiple connections. You can also look at who's looking at your profile on LinkedIn and send connection requests to those folks. And then, obviously whoever's your second degree, meaning they're not connected to you directly, but indirectly, those are people that are fair game. And then I would take a look at senior leadership. So who are the Mark Rogan camps connected to? Who are, people that are connected to some of the senior leadership at Safeguard that you could also work on building relationships and leveraging that connection that you also work for Safeguard as a way to extend your connections. Those are really good ways to do it. But the key is LinkedIn allows you to send out 100 connection requests a week. And I would encourage all of you to maximize that and to send out at least 100 a week. The reason why we want to go deep within accounts, and it really depends on the types of businesses that you're selling to, not so much with a restaurant per se, but if you're trying to sell to a bank or trying to sell to a hospital, there's going to be multiple people involved in that decision process today. In fact, on average, according to Gartner, there are 8 people involved in a typical B2B decision on the customer side or the prospect side. And so having one relationship or one connection on LinkedIn isn't going to cut it. We've got to really try to have, as we recommend, at least 5 within those accounts so that all those people can become aware of what you're about and how you can help. I've got this saying, you probably heard it before, that your network equals your net worth. And so LinkedIn makes it super easy for you to find and connect with people. And it's really important that you do. Like I said, you want to grow your connections and maximize that 100 outreach per week that you can do on LinkedIn every single week, just to maximize your connections there. Now, I'm not going to walk you through an example here real time. I'm just going to show it to you on this slide. But here's a screenshot of LinkedIn. And LinkedIn is a search engine. And you can search for people a lot of different ways. And you don't have to have the paid version of LinkedIn to do this. And you don't have to have Sales Navigator to do this. You can literally just go in, type a search phrase into the search bar, and then select that you want people, and then select that you want second connections. You can even, as you can see over here on the right, select for people that are in certain geographies. And so it makes it super easy to go find people that you would want to connect with. And that's not a hard thing to do on LinkedIn at all. So once you do that, when you find those people that you want to connect to by doing a search, and remember, you can do 100 of these a week. LinkedIn won't let you do any more than that these days. I found that this little template works great. And I've used this same template for probably 6 years or so when I send out a connection request. Now, one thing to be aware of, if you've done any outreach on LinkedIn, you probably know this, but when you send out a connection request, you can choose not to send a message along with that request, or you can choose to send a message. And I always do. And I just send out this template, basically, hi name, looking to connect with other whatever leaders, let's connect and see how we can help one another, cheers. That's literally what I do. Now, mine says, hi Jennifer, looking to connect with other B2B marketing leaders, let's connect and see how we can help with one another. Yours could be business leaders. You could just simply say, hi Paul, looking to connect with other business leaders in Dallas. Let's connect and see how we can help one another. It's really that simple. And I wouldn't put more thought into it than that. But I have found that when you do send the message along with the request, you get better connection rates. Okay, so we're going to move on from this first step, which is grow connections, into engage. But before I do, I just want to stop and pause for questions as it relates to growing your connections and what we just covered to get more people connected to you. Any questions related to that? Okay. All right, well, let's jump on in. So we've talked about growing and building connections. The next thing we have to do now that we have connections is we want to engage with those connections. And so there's some easy things to do, and then there's some more complicated things, but they're all very important. The first and easiest one is, you've sent out a connection request, somebody accepts your connection request. It's really important to send them a thank you for connecting message. And that's really beginning the dialogue. Remember, people do business with people they know, like, and trust. And so sending out that connection request and then never talking to them again isn't going to work. You've got to really build a relationship with them. You also want to like, share, and comment on things, especially on the things that your connections are sharing. You want to join in on influencer connections. I mentioned earlier the importance of influencers, and these are people that have the ear of our prospects that aren't necessarily competitors. And you want to find them and identify them And when they post, you want to engage with their content as well. You want to leverage direct messaging like email, because remember, one of the very first things we looked at was that when you engage with direct messaging when you use social media as a way to communicate with your prospects, your conversion rates go up by 30%. Direct messaging is a great way to do that. And then the last one, we want to avoid what we call premature presentation. You know, we're all sales reps, right? We have that desire. Oh my gosh, this person just connected with me. Now I want to tell them that they should buy something from me. And that's premature presentation. We really don't want to do that. In fact, in this industry, they call it pitch slapping. We don't want to do that. We want to nurture and build relationships before we try to sell them something. So here's just an example of a connection request response that I would send out. So if I send, like in this example, I send a connection request to Nancy. She accepted my connection request, and then I reached out back to her and I said, hey, thanks for connecting. It looks like we're both connected to this other person. And so the reason that I did that is I wanted to create some common ground. I didn't stop there. I also shared some information about an upcoming event that I thought they might be interested in attending. And so that's not really, I wouldn't call that pitch slapping. It's more of, hey, we've got this event coming up. Would you be interested in attending? We'll buy you lunch. And so those are a couple of examples of how you might send out a connection request. Thank you. So let's talk about influencers for a second. I've explained what an influencer is, but how do you find them? LinkedIn makes it really easy to do. And we use that same search bar that I showed you a couple of slides ago to find prospects. But now what we're going to do is we're going to look for influencers. And the way that you do that is you type in a key phrase in the search bar. In this example, I typed in B2B marketing, but instead of looking for people, I'm going to look for posts. So you'll notice on the top left there, right under the LinkedIn logo, you'll see that I've selected posts and not people. And then right to the right of that, you'll notice that I've selected the past week, and then I've selected top match. And what that's going to do, that search is going to bring up all of the posts that happened in the last week that were related to that key phrase that LinkedIn considered were really relevant, that they had some kind of nice engagement to where LinkedIn thought, well, this was an important post. The reason that you do that is it's going to help you find those influencers that are out there. These are the folks that you also want to comment on. So you want to build community with your prospects, but you also want to engage in posts that are put out there by influencers. And so this is the best way to find influencers and to find posts that you want to engage in. And the reason you want to do that past week, which is that second criteria there, is that gives you the opportunity. Once you do the search, you could literally go right to those posts and then engage on those posts. And that's really important, and just kind of getting your message out there. So when you're commenting, here's some key things to think about. One is you don't want to just say great post or thumbs up. What you want to do is actually continue the conversation. And so you want to share additional insights to whatever they may be talking about. You want to share your point of view as it relates to that. Maybe you want to ask another question or ask a question of the audience that's following that post, or maybe ask a question of that influencer. And that's a great way to get dialogue going. But again, this is not a selling situation, right? It's a no sales zone. So we want to get out there and engage and be helpful and not try to sell, because that will absolutely backfire on you. So that's critical. And then when it comes to engaging in conversations, another thing that you can do to make your life real easy is go click on this little bell over here. So here's Mark Rogenkamp's profile on LinkedIn. If I wanted to know every single time that Mark Rogenkamp shared something on LinkedIn, which I know is about every day because we post stuff on Mark Rogenkamp's LinkedIn page, you can click that bell right there. So you see that bell? If you click on that, every time you log into LinkedIn, if Mark Rogenkamp or whoever you've clicked that bell on has posted something, it will notify you. So anybody that you're trying to sell to, any influencer that is really important, that you see has a good groundswell of your prospects listening to what they have to say, I would click that bell and make sure that you're getting those notifications so that when you log into LinkedIn, you'll see those notifications showing up as, hey, Mark Rogenkamp just posted something. Paul Slack just posted something. And you can literally click from that notification right to the post, and then you can begin to engage on it. That's a super helpful tip. Another thing that you can do in engaging is actually calling out your audience. And so a lot of times when I'm posting something in social media and I want to get somebody's attention, I will actually mention them in my post. And what that often does is not only does it get their attention, but it causes them to, it'll get them often to engage with that post as well. Okay, so we've covered how do we grow our connections. We've talked about why engagement is important and how to engage and how to find influencers and the things we should do when we engage in conversations. Any questions about that? All right. Let's go into the third leg of the stool here, and that's sharing information. And so, it's important that we have a community. That's how we grow our connections, and that gives us a community. Then we've got to talk to our community. That's engaging in conversations. This last piece is about sharing thoughtful, insightful information that's going to be helpful to them. And so, this is where we need to be posting on a regular basis. And, for advisors that are in our program, we're posting for you, but that doesn't necessarily mean you can't post for yourself. In fact, we're doing the bare minimum, meaning it's great that you have a presence and wear that sign, like that donut shop sign I shared at the beginning of the presentation, but that doesn't mean you don't need to post things as well. And so, I'm a big fan, more is better. So if you can get out there and post things more frequently, that's going to help you stay top of mind. It's going to help you nurture relationships and really expand your reach. And this is key because today, only 1% of the profiles on LinkedIn actually share anything. That means that 99% of the people that have a profile on LinkedIn are what we call lurkers. They're going to LinkedIn, they're reading content, they're kind of scrolling through, but they're not posting anything. So if I can just convince you to post stuff on LinkedIn, you're going to be way ahead of your competition, because most of them are thinking this is a bunch of hooey and they shouldn't be posting. But this is a great opportunity for you to get in front of all that and to jump in front of your competition and share things with your audience that they're not getting from your competition. I'm going to date myself here a little bit, but an example I try to use when it comes to what do you share when you try to post things on LinkedIn or social media is, back when I was in high school, which was the 80s, if you were really into somebody, you would make them a mixtape. And in order to make them a mixtape, you had to really know what they were into. You had to know if they were into Led Zeppelin, or you had to know if they were into Duran Duran, two totally different bands that were popular back then. And so you had to really understand and really curate information that they would find entertaining or that they would like. And so as you think about creating content for social media, think like that mixtape. How can you get some information that's going to entertain and get your audience excited and to pay attention, right? You're looking for them to stop scrolling, and you want to put something out there that they're going to enjoy. So some examples might be things that are going on at Safeguard, resources that Safeguard makes available, changes that are happening in the industry that may impact them. I've been talking, for example, a lot lately about some big changes that Google just made related to their search engine algorithm called the Google Helpful Content Update. And so I'm talking a lot about that because that's a new thing going on in the industry. And guess what? When I post things about that update and what you can do about it, that stuff's blowing up on LinkedIn because it's relevant and timely, and it's going to impact the people that are listening to me. So what kinds of information can you share like that? Next, just share your subject matter expertise. It's okay to share things that are funny that will get a laugh, okay? Things that are motivational. We want to stay away from religion or politics, but it's okay to be funny. And I try to be funny all the time. I'm not that funny very often, but I try anyways, right? Before you publish, though, it's important to think about the me versus you test. Like, make sure that you're writing something that's going to help them, not necessarily help you. And that's really just good. At the end of the day, look at something before you hit the go button or the publish button and just ask yourself, is this good? I mean, is somebody going to really read this? If they spent 30 seconds of their life consuming this, would they feel like it was a good use of 30 seconds of their day? Okay, I've walked you through our 3-step process. I am going to walk you through a framework that we call the 3x5 method on how to do these things in as few minutes as possible every day. But before I do, I just want to open it up. Any questions on that last section? Okay, great. So the key to all of this is, we can't go to the gym once a month or once a week and expect to have, a six pack or to expect to have big old biceps like this guy on the left, right? And a lot of people tell me that social selling doesn't work because they've tried it and nothing happened. But the reality is, when you peel back the onion, they've done a couple of things and they haven't stuck with it. So consistency is really key. If we want to have big biceps, we got to go to the gym every day. If we want to be successful in social selling, we've got to go and get engaged in social selling every day. And so this is what we call our 3x5 method. And these are really the things that you can do every day of the week that are going to make a pretty big difference. So number one, every day of the week, business day of the week for you guys, send out 5 connection requests. So I've walked you through how to use LinkedIn as a search engine to find your prospects. Send out 5 connection requests a day. It'll take you less than 2 minutes to do that. Number 2, send 5 direct messages to 5 different contacts a day. Now, that's going to take a little bit more time, maybe 5 minutes to go find those direct messages. And I showed you how to use notifications. I've showed you how to use LinkedIn as a search engine to find influencers, but go find 5 other posts from other people and comment on those 5 posts every day. And I'm sorry, that's number 3. Number 2 was send out 5 direct messages a day. So you're sending out 5 new connection requests. You're sending direct messages to people on LinkedIn, using it like email every day. You're commenting on 5 posts every day. And then the bonus there at the bottom, number 4, is post your own content. And if you do those things every day, I promise you,
How are you?
3 months or 6 months down the road, you're going to be much farther along in social selling than you are today. And you might be like me, where people are literally reaching out to you and asking you to come talk to them about doing and providing services for their business. It really is that simple. I'm going to fast forward here a little bit.
And that's J-A-M as in Mary, J.
I'm going to mute that person. So measuring success, I'm going to fast forward this. We've got these slides. I'll make them available to you. But I wanted to spend the last couple of minutes, and I am noticing on time here that we've got to move along. I'm going to pass through this measuring success and really kind of get to the Safeguard Everest program and just spend a couple of minutes on that. For those of you that aren't involved in the program today, just give you a quick overview of that. Basically, this is a program that is sponsored by corporate. Vindy Digital is doing basically the execution of that, but it really is a partnership with corporate, where we're primarily creating social media content, and we're posting that content out on LinkedIn and Facebook each day of the week, or multiple times a week rather, so that you don't have to worry about that. That's probably the most time-consuming part of everything that I talked about, is having to think of something useful, making it look really nice, and getting it out there to your audience. And that's really what our program is designed to do. And the 4 goals that we came up with when we developed the program were to help you retain existing customers, make them aware of all the different products and services that you provide. So if they're only buying forms or they're only buying checks, that they're also aware that you offer these other things. And we work very closely with corporate to make sure that the social posts that we produce are talking about all the different things that you guys can do. It's also designed to help you engage with customers and ultimately grow your business, because social media is a great place for you to grow your business today. So here's what's included in the program. I mentioned the posts. So basically, we do 20 posts every month on behalf of our participating advisors. We also write blogs that live on the Safeguard website that we promote on your behalf into the social channels. Each advisor gets a custom landing page on the Safeguard website. And there is an option for us to do advertising for you, $80 a month on Facebook. But we also just announced a new option where we can just post on LinkedIn and not charge you the $80 a month. So you have those 2 options there. You get expert advice from my team. I introduced you guys to the team earlier today. Bailey and Juliana and Ray and me, we're all here to help you succeed and win in social media. And then we give you tools and resources and all the things, including training like this, to try to help you be successful. And if you're interested in learning more about the program, you can certainly reach out to us, and we've been more than happy to talk to you about it. But here's some examples of what the posts look like. And you can see on Michael Drysdale here, there's a LinkedIn post, a very similar post showing up on his Facebook, his Facebook page. The 2 blogs a month, they live on the Safeguard website. Those blogs are also rolled up in the custom landing page that we have for each advisor that's in our program. And then we run these ads specifically in Facebook. We don't run them in LinkedIn today because on Facebook, it's a pay to play market these days. The reality is that's just the way it is. You have to pay to play. On LinkedIn, you get great organic reach without having to pay. So it's not necessary there. But if Facebook is important to you, then built into the price is $80 a month for that, for those advertising campaigns. And so that's basically the presentation. And boy, I'm looking at the time, it's 1:59. If anybody has any last minute questions here, or if anybody can stay, if you've got questions, I'm happy to stay on for a few more minutes and get those questions answered. If not, Lindsay and Madeline, thank you so much for organizing this on the Safeguard side. Bailey, thank you for bringing it together. We'll get a copy of these slides out to everybody. We'll also get this recording out to everybody. And even if you have questions after today, we're more than happy to assist you in any way that we can. So any questions? If not, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Paul.
All right, guys, y'all have a great rest of your day. Thank you very much. Take care, everybody.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.